Hello, everyone. Welcome to WrestleWatch Basement. I'm Joe, and to my left is Pat, and this is his punching review for Wrestling 2023 WCW World War III 1997.
When I picked the wrong goddamn match. Anyway, World War III 1997.
And what's funny is the result that you picked happened tonight on Raw.
Yeah, I know. World War III 1987 apparently happened on November 23rd, 1998, as my list has here. 97.
Apparently did.
At the location was Palace of Auburn Hills, Detroit, Michigan. Attendance was 17,128. Commentators on the night were Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and Mike Tenay. Special thanks to Thomas Hall of KB Wrestling Reviews for me stealing his review. Trying to cut out like the little things where he's talking about his line review.
Because we got two limbs already eliminated.
Yeah.
It's not like Friday nights where it's like 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Anyway, the feature match here is, of course, the Battle Royal, with the winner getting a shot at Super Bowl, which would later be changed to uncensored. Why sold out wasn't an option is anyone else's guess. This was from when this was the company's hottest. This is from when this was the hottest company in the world. So expect a little more energy here than I would the next year. Let's get to it. The opening video is of a pilot/soldier in a decimated war zone with a ring destroyed in it. This is interspersed with clips of the show from previous 2 years. Bet that costs more than some wrestlers' salaries. After the announcers talk for a while, we're ready to go. The first match is Glacier and Ernest Miller versus the Faces of Fear. Miller and Glacier aren't told the jokes yet, and the Faces of Fear, Ming/Haku, that you probably know him better as, and Barbarian, are monsters at this point, of course. We brawl to start with Ming versus Glacier. Opens up officially. Glacier moves around as much as he can, but his shots don't mean much at all. Standing armbar goes on, and it's off to Miller. It's so weird to see Miller all serious like this, instead of the James Brown thing. Miller hammers on Barbarian, but the 3-time world karate champion can't put down the Tongan. Back off to Glacier, as we're up to speed versus power here, making this mostly awesome.
I never will Fargo's worse with those four.
Yeah, I actually don't agree with that. Miller dives on Barbarian onto the floor, using Ming as a springboard. That looked rather awesome indeed. Jimmy Hart distracts Glacier, and Barbarian runs him over. Back in the ring, Ming backdrops Glacier into a powerbomb by Barbarian for a 2 in a sweet spot. We get the basic face and peril sequence with Glacier getting beaten down. Power slam by Ming gets 2 off the Barbarian in the corner, and since Dusty isn't here, I'll say it. They be clubbering, Tony. They be clubbering. Apparently, Barbarian used to play rugby on the Isle of Tonga. Why in the world would Tenay know that? I get that he's the professor, but dude, does Barbarian even speak English? Another power slam by Ming gets 2. Time for the nerve hold, which is an old Tongan Samoan Savage standard. We hear a cool story about Ming being a bodyguard for the Emperor of Japan, as this needs to end rather soon. Elbow drop misses, and Miller still can't get in a tag. We finally get to the hot tag, and Miller cleans house. He kind of reminds me of Tajiri, actually, but a bit taller. Kicks all around, including one to Jimmy Hart. It's not that matters, though, as Tongan death grip ends Miller cold. Sorry, it was at the bottom there. For me, the match was meh. Maybe better than expected, because my standard for these four would have been, wow, that's going to suck. Face of Fear did well, and Cat did better than expected. Glacier's still Glacier, though. Messy as expected, but had some decent moments to it. I give it a D.
Hey, that's high for that.
Yeah. TV title, Disco Inferno versus Perry Saturn. Saturn had won the title in his debut off of Disco, so this is his rematch. There's your backstory. And Saturn is in the flop. Disco is being serious at the moment, and he got the TV title because of it. Raven comes to the ring with Saturn despite sitting in the front row pre-match. Raven says, "Let the stretching begin." Saturn immediately takes Disco down, and Inferno is frustrated. Today vaguely references ECW by calling it another organization. Saturn runs over Disco with power, so he can't hang with him on the mat or power, and Tenay says Saturn can fly. What chance does Disco have here exactly? Disco sends him to the floor as we hear about how during his 6 weeks reign with the title, he never got a clean pin. Wait, are we supposed to buy into him being credible or not? Heenan might have picked Saturn for the Battle Royal, but it's not entirely clear. Disco makes Saturn take a break, and then gets his head knocked off by a boot and a clothesline. Atomic Drop puts Saturn back down, as this is kind of weird back and forth. Disco hammers away with a back elbow and fist drop for 2. You may not believe this, but Disco does something incredibly intelligent here. You know the spot where the guy comes off the middle rope and jumps into a boot with no possible move they could have done other than jumping into the boot. Disco does it here, but avoids the boot. Granted, the elbow attempt missed, but I like what I saw there. T-Bone suplex to Disco has Saturn in control. Saturn covers him after time, but he can't get a pin. Second rope moonsault misses, and Disco, who doesn't have a finisher, tries a bunch of stuff for 2. Saturn gets a backslide, but sits down with it. So it's like a sunset flip backslide hybrid. Never seen that before. Disco is crotched on the top rope, and Disco hits the middle rope clothesline to send both guys to the floor. They more or less fell into each other on the apron with that, so it wasn't the best looking move. Disco yells at the flock and hits the chart busters, stunners on various members over the railing, including one debuting Lodi. He can't hit one of Van Hammer, and Saturn uses his chance to drill Disco and take over. Back in the middle of the ring, and Disco gets a neckbreaker for 2. Top rope crossbody hits, but Saturn rolls through into the rings of Saturn. A double. In this variant was a double arm underhook submission, not the crossface variant. Is the best way to describe that for the submission to retain. Including some bad-looking spots. Overall, okay. Going through these retro reviews, Disco is a tad bit underrated. He can give you a decent match with a good opponent, and Saturn was okay as always. I give it C-. Next match, Yuji Nagata versus Ultimo Dragon. Nagata has Sonny Ono with him, and if Dragon, Ono's former protege, loses, then he gets 5 minutes with Sonny. Dragon has a bad arm thanks to Nagata. Dragon is fresh off one of the least interesting feuds over a title you'll ever see, shooting it twice with Alex Wright. Nagata is a much bigger star in Japan, and it takes over early by going after the arm, but Dragon fights his way out of it. Nagata heads to the floor and Dragon follows. Sonny fires in some kicks, so Dragon tries a suplex, which Nagata breaks off to take over. Dragon grabs a headlock and gets suplexed. Nagata is one of the least interesting guys you'll ever see. Whenever his matches are on, Thomas here can't get that interested in him at all. Pile driver gets 2 for Nagata. He grabs a chin lock and shifts into a sleeper. Then he makes it even more interesting by going back to the chin lock. Wow. Another pile driver gets 2, so this is the big freaking band-aid. So is the big freaking bandage on his arm not big enough target that you should work the arm? Nagata kicks him and heads to the camel clutch, shifting over to the back now. After that gets broken up, he finally works on the arm with a Fujiwara armbar. Let's hit that Shinlock sleeper again, because that arm work can't last that long. Belly to belly overhead suplex gets 2. Dragon avoids a backdrop and kicks the tar of Nagata. Some face washes in the corner have Nagata in big trouble. Pescado is almost caught by a kick, but Dragon catches the kick and hits the Dragon screw leg whip to take Nagata down to the floor. Top rope crossbody to the floor puts Nagata down again. Back in, and the Dragon goes up again. Suplex off to the top, but Nagata is blocked, and Dragon adds a moonsault for 2. Dragon tries a suplex, but Nagata reverses that. Reverses. That reversal is reversed into a Dragon sleeper, but Sonny distracts. Dragon Rana gets 2, but Sonny puts Nagata's foot on the rope. When we then get one of the sloppiest finishes you'll ever see. Dragon tries a belly to back suplex, but seems to fall towards the ropes. Nagata's foot hits Sonny, and Nagata falls on top. Dragon's sleeper was up and he was in the ropes, but the referee counted to 4. Yes, 4 anyway. That had to be at least one botch. So when I said Thomas thought that Nagata's least interesting, the reason why I didn't agree with that is, well, I have very limited experience with Nagata, as I think this is the only match I've ever seen of his. However, this match does not help at his case with any experience going forward. Dragon on offense was good. Walkie-looking finish in a boring match only gives it about a D. Tag titles match, the Blue Bloods versus the Steiner Brothers. The Blue Bloods are Dave Taylor, Old English Dude, and Steven Regal, yes, that Regal. This was when the Steiners were the tag champions, but the Outsiders had their own belts. This result in the temporary unified tag titles. Ted DiBiase is managing them here. Scott versus Taylor off the start, and Scott isn't that far away from turning heel and breaking up the team. We hear about how awesome the Steiners are, including their 2 tag team title reigns from another promotion, WWF, and how dominant they are. The Dudleys would more or less destroy every record they had, but until they came along, it was the Steiners. The British dudes get thrown around with ease and are sent to the floor to hide a bit. Rick versus Regal next, and it's a USA chant. Regal tries to use his technical stuff, so Rick grabs his hands and cracks it to take over. Well, no one ever accused Rick of being a mental giant. Regal takes over for a bit, but gets cocky, and Rick gets a Fujiwara armbar, of all things, to take him down. Off to Scott, who gets that sweet belly to belly for 2. STF goes on for all of 2 seconds, and it's back to Rick.
Good night.
Good night. He goes for the arm of Regal again, but as Dave has the referee, Regal gets a finger to the eye to take over. And never mind as Rick gets a shoulder block and power slam to take over. Regal gets a knee to the back of Scott and pulls the rope down to send Scott outside. Taylor goes for the arm and it's back to Regal. He hooks Scott in a leg lock and brings Taylor back in. The Brits have used a lot of European uppercuts, and every time they've put the Steiners down, Regal tries to speed things up and walks into a belly-to-belly by Scott, allowing for a tag to Rick. Down goes everyone, and it all breaks down. Scott backdrops Taylor onto Regal, and the Steiner Bulldog ends Regal's routine. Let's face it, it was more of an extended squash. Most of the time, I've always said the Steiners were on offense. But I've heard of worse ideas than the Steiners suplexing pompous assholes. All respect to Regal and Dave Taylor, as that is their job to do here. However, the Bloods did get in some good shots. With that being said, probably didn't really need to go on pay-per-view, but I'm not going to look a C match in the mouth. J.J. Dillon says Raven has 24 hours to sign a contract or he's gone. Raven versus Scotty Riggs. Riggs is in an eye patch due to Raven hurting him. Kidman, a member of the flock, insists on Raven's rules, meaning no DQ. Raven has been trying to get Riggs to join the flock. So what do you think is coming at an end here? Riggs jumps him and beats on Raven for a while, and the kind of offense you expect from a guy that has no chance at all. Riggs gets a roll-up for 2 as Raven can't get much going. Heenan makes a blind joke, which are kind of funny. First of all, he suggests moving the patch to the other eye. That's rather smart when you think about it. Raven uses the shirt around his waist to choke away, and we head to the floor. Riggs reverses and sends him into the steps and chokes with the cord. Tony says Raven is helpless, just as he pops up with a jawbreaker. I love when Tony looks like an idiot. More on that later. Which means I love WCW a lot. The announcers say Scotty has done nothing since Bagwell, and he broke up, which makes me laugh for some reason. Raven gets a chair and hits him in the back a few times with some weak shots. Riggs gets the drop toe hold into the chair as a reversal to break Raven's momentum. Modified Van Daminator by Riggs gets 2. Riggs manages a bulldog onto the chair, which looked either awesome or awful. I'm not sure which. Either way, it gets a 2. And never mind that, as the even flow DDT to kill Riggs dead. Raven wants a microphone instead. There's a second DDT as he says he feels Riggs' pain, and that it hurts Raven more than Riggs. Heenan, I don't think so. Raven shouts about feeling pain again, and the third DDT has Riggs unconscious. The referee counts him out, and it's over. Well, WCW adding more chair shots, everybody. Thanks, ECW. Also, why is Riggs on offense? Why was he so much on offense for this?
Because he was married to Camille at one point.
I'm not a huge fan of Raven, but he's miles better than Bagwell's D. Up next, Steve McMichael versus Bill Goldberg.
How many fucking matches are there before the battle?
I know. This is over Mongo's Super Bowl ring that Goldberg stole at the previous pay-per-view. Mongo comes out with a pipe. Goldberg's music hits, and there's no Goldberg. Mongo says this isn't happening and says he can sneak up on people too. We go to the back and Goldberg is out cold. So no one noticed the big man in his underwear out cold on the concrete just behind the entryway. Mongo more or less gives an open challenge, resulting in the match of Steve McMichael versus Alex Wright.
Oh, wow.
Ray isn't here because he wants to be here, but because Deborah, Mongo's estranged wife, brings him out and more or less makes him fight. Ray whips him with his jacket to start. Ray is from Germany, so wouldn't that be a foreign object? Mongo is like, screw this, and hammers away, sending Ray to the floor. He tries to leave, but Deborah more or less makes him come back. Alex tries to fight and gets slammed down to the mat with ease. Mongo is barely breaking a sweat in this. Was there a reason they didn't have Goldberg in this? I'm not getting. Deborah's voice is irritating, to put it mildly. Wright takes over for a bit with some chops, but McMichael takes up the knee. Side slam sets up the tombstone to end it. This was about as much as a squash as a pumpkin, which means completely. However, this was a replacement for one of WCW's rising stars. Probably not that fair when you're replacing Goldberg with Alex Wright. Yeah, Alex Wright may be the better wrestler, but I think people would rather see Goldberg, to be fair. However, it does write off Goldberg for the Battle Royal without taking a loss. So that's the reason I had my head for this. D-.
Hey!
They more or less kept it short. And
There's gonna be one of the first WCW shows where nothing feels. Right?
yeah, keep holding on to that dream.
I mean nothing. Nothing at all.
Sorry. For some reason in my notes app, they decided that one of the things I wrote was a website, and
It was.
it highlighted it for some reason.
I get told.
Yeah. So I have to scroll through and find my place again.
Moving up next for the Cruiserweight Championship, Rey Mysterio against Eddie Guerrero.
Cruiserweight title time. Eddie Guerrero versus Rey Mysterio. They're coming off an absolute classic the previous month at Halloween Havoc. Eddie is the champion here. Also, what is with the total lack of promos here? I think JJ had the only one so far. They start off with speed.
Should have go longer?
No. They start off with speed stuff to no one's shock. To shock no one. Eddie is in the gold tights, and they're really not working for him here. Ray gets the elevated snapmare to take Eddie down, and it's a stalemate. So many goddamn pop-up ads. That brings me back to the end. Yeah, great. Thank you, pop-up ads. I really appreciate this.
Stalemate.
The fans are all over Eddie here, and his reaction is quite funny. Eddie ripped the mask off partially last time, so we talk about that bit here. Guerrero hits a German suplex and busts out some suplexes to take over. The problem here seems that they're trying to have the match of the year rather than just having a great match. They fight towards the ropes, and neither guy can take over. Hilo misses and Ray hits the floor. Both guys try dives, but neither of them can hit. Ray can't get a sunset bomb, so Eddie hits the tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. Back in, and Eddie goes up, only to get it blocked by Ray. Superplex by Eddie takes Ray down, but the frog splash misses. Eddie rolls through, and Ray gets a runner for 2. Flapjack puts Ray down, but Eddie can't get back up either. After some shots by Eddie, he drops Ray over the top and spanks himself for a bit. Eddie tries a sunset bomb, which is reversed into a Rana by Ray. Ray adds a front flip over the ropes to end Eddie. And then Moonsault gets into the ring. Eddie charges and is sent into the post, but power bombs Ray out of the run to take over again. A gory special by on by Eddie, and Ray is in trouble. Ray counters that into the sunset flip for 2. Leg lariat puts Eddie down again, but Ray doesn't cover for no apparent reason. They try something from the top, and Ray falls off in what looked like a mild botch. Moonsault press gets 2 for the guy in the mask. Dropping the dime gets no cover as Ray wants to go up again. West Coast pop and sunset flip gets 2 as Eddie grabs the rope. Awesome looking move. Ray tries to run at Eddie, who is on the corner, but Eddie gets a hot shot to block it. Frog splash ends this. So Thomas pretty much gave it away there. This match's biggest failing is that this is after the Halloween Havoc match, and they weren't going to reprise that as hard as they would try. But they did try, and that's probably why this match isn't necessarily great or remembered. But to no one's surprise, this is actually still pretty good. And living up to that classic will always be difficult. They try and push it and make it live up, usually creates faults in the matches. And it happened here. But with that being said, to be. Ad for Starrcade, remarkable that they managed to screw that up too. U.S. title, Ric Flair versus Curt Hennig. Hennig had turned on Flair in the Horsemen at Fall Brawl, slamming Flair's head in the door. He won the U.S. title soon after and more or less hasn't looked back since. This is Flair's revenge match rather than for the title. It's also no DQ. And Hennig brings a chair with him. The referee gets rid of the chair, which is kind of pointless, but whatever. Hennig is wearing a Six shirt for no apparent reason. Curt stalls like a Memphis man, but gets caught on the floor and Rick hammers away. This is the last match before the Battle Royal 2. We hit the crowd.
At least WWE was like 4 matches.
Yeah.
3 or 4 matches besides the 2 Rumbles. Yeah.
We hit the crowd with Rick dominating. This is your usual brawl in the crowd with various punches, eye rakes, along with people being rammed into objects. Flair's rammed into the railing as Curt dominates for a while. Back in the ring, and Hennig chokes away with a cord, and we go back to the floor. We hear Flair playing football at the University of Minnesota, which isn't something you often hear about. Flair goes up top and drops the double axe handle onto Hennig, into the railing by the... Rick goes up top, drops a double axe handle onto Hennig, into the railing by the throat, but he might have hurt his ankle there. Flair chops away as we talk about the Battle Royal with various countries, etc., that are going to be here for the match. Good to know that a bunch of people we don't know will be competing here. Back in the ring again, and the referee got poked in the eye by Hennig, apparently instead of letting him count to 3. Hennig was covering Flair, which means it was even stupider. He works on the leg with Flair, losing his mind, as usual, of course. Heenan says, "You can forget the figure 4 now." Why do I not believe that in the slightest? He drops the leg between Flair's legs, and Rick's ankle is still hurt. Modified Indian Deathlock goes on by Hennig, and he gets 2 on him as Flair's laying there. Rick fights out of it and gets a chop block as the crowd is way into him, or at least into wooing. Snapmare puts Hennig down and drops the knee. After some rights, Flair goes up. Take a guess how this goes. Just take a guess. They chop it out with Hennig easily getting the best of it, resulting in a Flair flap for 2. We slug it out in the corner a bit with Flair tossing Hennig into the corner, where Kurt is crouched on the post as is custom. Hennig drops low to avoid a chop as it's Flair in control again. They ram heads though and both go down for a bit. Belly to back gets 2 for Flair. To change the pace a bit, Hennig chops away in the corner. They're in a different ring now. Flair flipped in the corner and we go outside again. Scratch that as just Flair does as Hennig chills in the ring for a bit, which is probably pretty smart. They fight a bit on the floor with Hennig in control. Flair sends him into the railing and both guys are down again. Excuse me. Flair suplexes him back into the ring, but that's also only gets 2, as it's about 15 minutes now and probably needs to end very soon. Flair gets a chair as I had forgotten this was a no DQ match. It gets set up in the ring and Flair crotches him on it and kicks the chair into the knee. Flair rams the knee into the chair and brings the belt into the ring. Figure 4 goes on, but the belt that is right next to Hennig goes into Flair's head and it's over. Weak ending to say the least. So long, disappointing, and boring are the things that come to mind for this match. The song was good, but expected more from both. It completely falls apart as a grudge match, as this more or less just felt like a wrestling match and didn't necessarily feel like that grudge feud of you slammed the cage door into my head and had us Horsemen get beat down by the NWO. That didn't necessarily register for this match. D+.
Nothing on this show has failed.
I'm going to need a water for the next part.
It can't be that long.
Bear with me.
It's only 60 men.
Well, we get to it. World War III.
Would you like to listen to participants?
I actually have a list of the participants.
I don't do that no more.
Don't worry. Chris Adams, Brad Armstrong, Marcus Bagwell, Barbarian, Chris Benoit, Bobby Blaze, Booker T, Cyclope, Damien, El Dandy, Barry Darso, Disco Inferno, Jim Duggan, Fit Finley, Hector Garza, The Giant, Glacier, Johnny Grunge, Juventud Guerrera, Chavo Guerrero Jr., Eddie Guerrero, Scott Hall, Kurt Hennig, Prince Iake, Chris Jericho, Liz Mark Jr., Lex Luger.
That's not bad. Oh.
Dean Malenko, Steve McMichael, Ming, Ernest Miller, Rey Mysterio, Hugh Mars, Mortis, Yuji Nagata, John Nord, Diamond Dallas Page, La Parka, Stevie Ray, Lord Steven Regal, The Renegade, Rocco Rock, Randy Savage, Silver King, Norman Smiley, Louis Spicolli, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, Super Callow, Squire David Taylor, Ray Traylor, Ultimo Dragon, Greg Valentine, Viano 4, Viano 5, Vincent, Kendall Windham, Wrath, and Alex Wright.
That's not a bad lineup. I like a lot of those names.
What you might notice is that is only 59 names. There. So, yes, it's time for some shenanigans. So as far as people you might not know, the only one that pops off the page to me is Jim Nord, who's more famous as Berserker. The introductions are odd, as they say the wrestlers can go from ring to ring. What sense does that make at all? Also, once we get down to 5 people per ring, we go to the middle ring. So if they get down to 5 in a ring and the other rings aren't, yet we just stop. See why this match tended to suck? The rules rarely made sense. Just have a freaking battle royal. How hard is that to accomplish? As usual, the entrances take about 5 minutes. They seem to be a bit faster this year, though, mainly due to some people coming out in groups.
You're welcome. I gave you the face entrances.
The Giant is here is the defending champion, and has a broken hand here. By that he means he won the World War III last year.
That was the good World War III.
The missing one is apparently Kevin Nash, who might be out with a knee injury.
What else is good?
The bell rings and we immediately go split screen, meaning you can't see anything. WCW didn't get this through their heads until the following year, where they just filmed everything in every ring, like the intelligent people would suggest. Let's get this over with. Liz Mark Jr. and Disco Inferno, plus anyone else Giant touches, are gone. You must have gotten 4 people at a time. Louis Piccoli and Viano are out.
Who's Viano?
It just says Viano.
Oh, well, how are we supposed to know? This throws the flow of the match in my head.
La Parka is out. Expect a lot of so-and-so is out. Just like Norman Smiley. Public Enemy goes after Ming, and Grunge is put out. Ring 2, the Giants ring, is emptying quickly. DDP just walks into another ring. Scott Hall puts El Dandy out.
Damn.
And here I was, never doubting El Dandy. He said, I guess Hall didn't doubt him. The NWO is in ring 1. Bobby Blaze is gone.
Who the fuck is that? That's the name I don't know. I heard the name Jim Moore, I just didn't know who it was.
Ring 2 has like 30 people in it. Or is that 3? The announcers say 2 and the graphic says 3. Whatever, man. It's in the middle. Graphic now says 2. Flair is in here either, apparently. Who replaced him, I wonder. They said, since they made it clear he was an entrant in this match. Stevie Ray hangs on with a rake to the eyes. We've more or less stopped checking the other rings. Brad Armstrong is gone. Silver King was gone. Damien, a luchador, is thrown out. DDP and Wrath go at it, but Wrath hangs on. DDP tosses Prince Iaukea. The God is out, so the match is less boring now. Wrath and Renegade are gone and fight up the aisle. No idea how many people are left in the moment. Ring 1 is rather empty, with maybe like 7 people, and all NWO is still in there. Jericho is out. Hall winds up hanging on by one hand, but the NWO runs in for the save to keep him in. Greg Valentine is gone. Giant's hand is killing him, so Mortis and Duggan double team him. The people keep switching rings, so you can't tell who is where and who is left, as you think they're eliminated, but they're in a different ring. Most annoying indeed. Ring 3 is mostly empty, while Ring 1 is a lot more full. Harlem Heat beats on Chris Adams. Adams is gone, but tries to sneak back in, a la his most famous student, Steve Austin.
Is he successful?
No. Ray Traylor, Big Boss Man. Chuck Savage as Finley is gone. Page and Benoit fight to the apron, but both get back in. We're roughly halfway done here as Dave Taylor is gone. Page and Malenko put, I think, Benoit out. Yep, that was him. Miller puts Malenko out. Ring 3 seems to have Ming, Giant, Alex Wright, and Mortis. Duggan is out to some booing. Miller is gone. Leave it to WCW's cameras to focus on the Giant's hand. That's all you see in the entire ring. Barbarian goes out, and McMichael is also in Ring 3. Ray puts Eddie out, and they get ganged up on by the NWO, who finally gets him out. Trailer is gone, as is Darso. Wade Mysterio pulled the John Morrison, Shawn Michael, and is hanging on to the apron. Bongo is out as a right mortis. Giant and Ming are the only ones left in that ring. Luger, Harlem Heat, DDP, and Rick Steiner are in another ring, and the NWO remain in the other. Stevie Ray is out, so we have about 10 left, I think. Giant drop kicks Ming out. That was incredible, and he wins the ring. Okay, so it's Vincent, Hall, Savage, Bagwell, Hennig, DDP, Rick Steiner, Luger, and Booker T. The NWO won't change rings, so they say come over. They beat up the referee who says go to the other ring. Giant chills in the ring a while. The other four change to the NWO ring. There's Giant, so they're all in the ring closest to the entrance. Because clearly the most fans can see them there, right? Diamond Cutter to Vincent and a huge pop. Giant rolls Vincent out to get the first NWO guy out. Booker is out via someone we didn't see as it is Rick Steiner. Bagwell talks to the camera, so Giant rams Bagwell and Savage's heads together. Luger hammers Hennig on the second rope and doesn't get tossed. Luger wakes up and hammers on people, but gets jumped by the NWO. Giant comes over and puts out Bagwell, Hennig, and Luger, leaving us with Savage, Giant, Hall, and DDP. There's a decent mid-card tag match in there somewhere. Savage fights Page while Hall gets beaten up by Giant. Giant slams Hall instead of throwing him out. Savage wants an elbow to DDP, but Giant stands in front of him. Savage, the crazy man that he is, jumps anyway and gets caught. He doesn't get tossed though, but takes a diamond cutter. Giant will let him get tossed though, because he wants to chokeslam him. Savage is more or less dead and is tossed out with ease to get us to 3. The next year would be the same 3, but with Nash instead of Giant. More or less it's a handicap match with Hall versus Giant and DDP. Hall heads to another ring, which is pretty smart actually. He does the point, and here comes no one as the NWO music starts playing and ends. Hogan's music kicks in and is here now instead. So apparently Hogan, the world champion, is number 60, being allowed to skip 25 minutes of the match to potentially win a title shot against himself. There's 7 minutes left, so let's just go with it. We get a tag match with Hogan fighting Giant and Hall fighting DDP. Okay, so during Hogan's 2 minutes or so long intro, did Giant DDP just stand there instead of going after Hall? 6 minutes left, so I don't particularly care. The fans want Sting as the NWO starts dominating. Hogan slams Giant to a big pop. Hall is sat on the top rope by Giant as DDP is crotched on the top rope. Bear hug to Hall as Sting repels from the ceiling. Somehow about 10 inches taller with lighter colored hair. Hogan eliminates himself to run from Not Sting, and Not Sting hits Giant with a bat to eliminate him, as I guess DDP went out somewhere at this point. Not Sting points the bat to Hall as the fans chant Nash, having basic intelligence. The NWO celebrates to end this stupid match. Hogan gives DDP a diamond cutter to take us to the credits. Yes, WCW had credits.
So that one didn't sound too bad.
I hate this battle royal.
Not this one in particular, or all of them?
My only love for it ever came as a kid. See the basic idea when I was the age of about 5, 6, or 7. As I think that's the mindset you have to be intrigued by this. It's 60 men in 3 rings. That's double and triple what Rumble has. And then you see the finished product. Just small pictures. Three small picture-in-pictures covering 3 different rings. This doesn't allow for story moments, as it's hard to see anything in these goddamn things, or in that massive humanity. This one may be the worst executed one I've seen, too. As Hogan can just enter the match whenever to fight for a title that he already holds. Also, trying to pass off Nash as Sting is fucking insane, as commentary had to pass off a 7-foot dude with blonde hair standing neck to neck with the Giant, but confusing him for a 6'1" dark-haired man. Actually, commentary selling it is one thing, as WCW would likely have a horse with a Sting mask on its face and a horse trench coat drop from the ceiling, and commentary would still have to sell like it's Sting because he made it in a Sting-like manner. It's a completely different thing, though, that Hogan sold it like it was Sting. You know, the man who's been around Nash for about every day for 2 years, and confusing him for a man he's apparently scared of. It is amazing how anyone had hope going into Starrcade. F.
Oh, not bad.
As always, with the overall, it's an F. Main event fails, so does the card. This felt like an early Royal Rumble card. No match technically needs to be on this pay-per-view, as the Rumble is the attraction. However, World War III sucks donkey balls. And this one is dumber than a bag of rocks. I recommend Eddie and Ray's match, as it's probably one of the lesser ones of their series, but still pretty good. And especially if you're a completionist, I completely understand you do it. However, that one is, I will put this caveat, it is in the shadow of the past month's Ray and Eddie match. Otherwise, this was a slog to get through, with matches that just barely didn't fail.
Wait till I have a store for
and then the main event was absolutely insane. F.
If you lose Belfort Warrior, wait till I see what I got in store for you. It might be World War III 98.
I think you've already given that one.
99. I should have there into 99.
No. They eventually thought it was a bad idea. Eventually.
Right. Now, for this, up next, our retro review of Money Back 2014. See that.
See you then.